Hey Eva, welcome to People in Legal.
Hi, David. Thank you for having me today.
Well, this is a bit of a special one actually because you're joining us as a podcaster as well.
I know, very exciting. I'm really excited about that.
We're so delighted to have you on board to help us. I mean, you've got such a great variety of experience. But I guess I want to talk to you today about your experience and the kinds of podcasts you'll be running. So, do you want to introduce yourself to our audience and a bit more about you?
Yeah, sure. Um, my background is basically in tech marketing and international business, and I can give you a funny story about how it all came about. So, I actually started off studying a Bachelor of Commerce, but I was majoring in professional accounting. Um,
Wow.
yeah, very different, very different. Kind of about 6 months in, I was thinking, do I want to kind of play with numbers for the rest of my life? And that's when I started exploring like different majors. Before changing, though, I wanted to actually get that hands-on experience
Yeah.
on, try different things and see what I like, what I don't like. I applied for a lot of different places, but I think I was lucky to land an internship at a global tech company. So
Wow.
at the time, I actually had no idea what tech is. I didn't know what SaaS was. I didn't know how technology functions, nothing. Um,
Mm.
and I just thought, why not like give it a go?
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think that was how I got into tech marketing. I actually really enjoyed, even learning about the tech itself, how it works. Um,
Mhm.
so then I kind of went from there and started working across different industries, including fintech and short tech and legal tech, of course. Yeah. Um, so from there, then
Mhm.
I thought, what's next? I'd always wanted to study law, not gonna lie. I
Yeah.
wanted to kind of understand, not necessarily because I wanted to be a lawyer,
Mhm.
but because I wanted to understand how the law works and
Yeah.
how I can apply that to business and how it actually affects different businesses from different parts of the world.
Yeah.
And if you were to be working in international business as well, if you were to kind of trade globally, how are you going to apply those different laws across the globe?
Yeah.
So then I decided to do a master's degree in law,
Wow.
specifically specializing, yeah, in international trade and commerce, um, and kind of found it really interesting. And the theory part of it was great, and it got me thinking in ways that I probably would have never thought. Critical thinking skills that I would have never done if I didn't actually do that degree. So
Mhm.
like sits there and reads case law for fun, right? So then I thought, you know what, something's missing. Like being the practical person that I am, I thought, I'm still in tech marketing, and I thought, you know what, I really want to apply this legal kind of theory knowledge or things that I'm learning to how it actually applies to real life scenarios.
Yeah.
How could I do that was try and apply that legal knowledge or theory to my current marketing practice. So
Mm.
that's when I kind of decided to transition a little bit from technology marketing. So I think at the time
Mhm.
I worked in SureTech to kind of more into that legal consulting space. So
Mhm.
so while during studying my law degree, I started working in a professional services firm, which worked with a lot of different legal firms and a lot of different accounting firms. So that was a really good experience for me to kind of be able to apply that and also expand my network in the in that area
Mm.
as well. Because I was passionate about it, and this is something I wanted to kind of continue going towards. Um, and then keeps going. And then from there, we kind of transitioned back to legal tech,
Yeah.
uh, which was Theo at the time. So what perfect mix of
Mm.
law, tech, marketing, international business, with their expansion into Australia in 2023. So uh, did that, and honestly, I think that was one of the highlights of my career, one of the most significant highlights of my career. I learned a lot
Yeah.
in that role. Uh, and then from there, I kind of thought, interacting with a lot of different lawyers or people in the legal industry, and even in the professional services, I kind of realized there's a little bit of a gap in terms of specific marketing services
Yeah.
um, targeted towards legal sector. Um,
Mhm.
in terms of not just, having a website, for example, everybody knows that, but in terms of how to actually utilize that website to generate leads, get new customers, and not just purely
Mm.
rely on kind of word of mouth. And it kind of, I realized there's a lack of awareness around, marketing strategies targeted towards um, the legal industry. So then that's when I decided to kind of establish Legal Galaxy Marketing as a specialized legal marketing services business.
Amazing. So you actually cover, I guess, the gamut of like the tech and legal tech and law firms as well. So it's a fantastic intersection. And it'd be very interesting. And I mean, how I guess if I sort of swing to law firms for a minute, I mean, how do law firms, I mean, what tweaks can law firms do to get more customers, get more clients? What things are you seeing that make a difference for law firms?
Yeah, I think a few of the things that I've seen, firstly, really segmenting your audience.
Hmm.
So, for example, if you're a family law firm, you really want to be targeting those family law firms. You might just say, specific messaging in terms of how you segment your audience. So you can't just say, in your promotions, do you need a lawyer? Like that person might need a lawyer, but they might not need a family lawyer. They might need a commercial lawyer. So being
Yeah.
really specific in your messaging in terms of what areas you're targeting. The other
Hmm.
thing is actually leveraging your website for lead generation. So a
Okay.
lot of law firms, I've seen a lot of law firms that don't have a website at all, but I've seen a
Wow.
lot of law firms that have a website, but the website is just sitting there with kind of no content on there to be able to generate traffic through SEO or
Mm.
no kind of contact form uh, to help get inbound leads from potential customers. And I actually did some research, and 51% of law firms actually find generating leads through their website the most significant marketing challenge. So
Right.
yeah, I think that's a really key issue in that area. Um, Social media, so don't underestimate the power of social media in
Yeah.
kind of digital society. In saying that, again, you're going to have different channels of social media.
Yeah.
So, depending on again what sector or what segment you're serving, your
Mm.
audience might be on different platforms. So, for example, if you're a law firm offering your services to people, or we call it B2B or B2C. So, in this scenario, for example, you're a family law firm or you're a
Hmm.
personal injury lawyer, most
Hmm.
of your audiences are probably going to be people, normal people looking on
Yeah.
Instagram or looking on Facebook. Whereas
Right.
if it's a commercial law firm, you'd still use Instagram and Facebook, but maybe primarily your audience might be on LinkedIn because those are
Yeah.
corporations and other, corporate audiences that might be browsing on those platforms.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, so you'd tailor your messaging on those different sort of platforms. You'd integrate with your website, so the whole thing's integrated and things like that as well. I mean, I've heard people talk about lead magnets before. I mean, are they something that you use with law firms as well and their websites?
100%. So lead magnets are actually closely related to the content you create,
Hmm.
and the content you create will have to essentially at first impression, people have short attention spans, right? So you
Yeah.
want to have maybe a guide or maybe something, that will in the first 3 or 4 seconds
Hmm.
throw the problem of that specific target audience in their face and say, read this or download this to solve this problem. And
Right.
again, you can have different types of content. You can have webinars that are gated. You can have guides. You can have contact us forms, anything that would add value to that customer.
And that's something you'll do for a law firm. Like you'll look at their website and so it could be brochure where they might just have like
Yeah,
one of those Shutterstock pictures that you've got on
yeah,
there standard and all the other stuff there and contact us and,
yeah.
where we're located and things, but you'll go there and you'll actually make the website really work for them, like get the best investment out of it from them.
That's right. And I think another thing I've started to notice are working really well is estimators or calculators.
Mhm.
Things like that also work really well
Mhm.
for legal
What
firms.
about AI bots and things like that, like chat bots and
Mhm.
AI bots and things like that? Is that something you're seeing increasingly with law firms and ways of interacting with their clients?
I think that depends on the size of the firm because,
Yeah.
if you're a smaller firm, you might not have, the resources to have someone sitting there responding to. I think it's a great idea. I
Mhm.
think having chatbots, because more and more people are becoming kind of more busy. We have our lifestyles. We're on the train, we're on the bus, we want to go on our phone, we don't want to call someone. We hate
Yeah.
the telephones. We just want to ask our questions through a chat and get a response, right? So I think it's a great
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
And if you have the resources to implement that, I think it's good.
Yeah.
But you do need to be, so if you install a chatbot, you do actually need to be responsive. So you can't just have it there, have people asking questions, because that's going to make it worse. And then they're going to say, oh, well, you're not responding to me. It's been a whole week. Um,
Yeah.
so, but overall, I think they're great.
I'm diving into the weeds. Sorry, Ava. I'm highly interested in actually how people market their services in the professional services space.
Yeah.
But I mean, and look, flipping, I guess to the other side, which is the legal tech companies. I mean, if I'm a 10-person legal tech company with some technology out there and things, are you seeing what's marketing look like for a 10-person company who's selling legal tech in Australia, for example, and their aspirations to go overseas?
Yeah, I think so. Two parts to your question, I think. So in terms of selling online as a 10-person legal tech firm, I think content is actually really important. You want to be discovered. So how you do that is through doing your keyword research and things like that. So then when people Google, you come up as a potential option. The second thing is, I think, finding your unique kind of sweet spot in terms of having a competitive advantage and
Mm,
trying to think what is it that you're doing better than your competitors.
mm,
This one's a bit more theoretical, but it's a really important thing because it also does relate to your content. Because once you identify that sweet spot, because why should people buy from you when they've got 20 other options, for
yeah,
example,
that's right.
right?
Yeah.
So finding that specific sweet spot, and then what you need to do is create compelling content around that and um, promote that content. Um,
Yeah.
and then in terms of expanding internationally, say for example, you're an Australian firm and you want to expand internationally,
Hmm.
you need to, I think one of the most important things is understanding to become a global business, you need to find the right balance between standardization, how you're going to standardize your brand versus localization, right? So it's important to have that global mindset and understand not one shoe fits all when it comes to expanding internationally. However, things like your branding, things like your reputation, things like your overall brand image, these things need to stay the same because you want to remain as one company. You want people to recognize your logo, recognize your name everywhere in the
Mm,
world, but you
yeah.
want to cater specifically to those local needs. So whether
Mm,
that's through purchasing behavior of
mm,
different regions, whether that's, cultural and how they do things differently. So if I give you an example from personal experience, it's Australians have a very much more different culture in terms of interacting in business versus North Americans. So we're much relationship driven,
mhm,
and everything we do is we have a lot of word of mouth. Um,
mhm,
everything we do is built on trust and
mhm,
credibility. And so it's really important to leverage the local network, for example, in Australia, in order to be
mhm,
able to build that trust and credibility, tap into the pools of the local network, and
mhm.
vice versa. Obviously, it has to be a two-way relationship. Versus maybe in North America, it's much more transactional driven, and that's just the way they do business, and that's just you can call it culture in some ways.
That's interesting. So it sounds like to me that it's more influencer driven here. Like you've got key influencers and key people in the marketplace that you engage with and build content around those people. More case studies, more sort of testimonials and case studies, and more kind of more sort of I guess data points around that versus more around features and benefits and things like that. So
Yeah.
people want to hear about you're selling to it's more selling to the people and using as influencers versus selling on the features and benefits.
I think so. Yes, definitely.
Mm. That's interesting. And I mean, it's a tricky one, but but with again the example I sort of gave of the 10-person company in legal tech, I mean, what how much of their turnover should they be putting into marketing? I mean, if they I mean, if they wanted to do international expansion, like build their market here, continue building market here, but international expansion. I mean, how much should they put into that?
That's, I think, a tough question because that just depends on their resources
Yeah,
and what their priorities are. Usually, I'd say you're not going to make a profit in the first year of
yeah,
expansion, even second year, even years of expansion, right? You might
yeah,
even make a loss.
yeah.
Um, so usually it's somewhere around maybe 20%, 20 to
Right.
30%.
Yeah,
But again, it's a very subjective. So it could depend on the goals of the business, priorities
yeah,
of the business.
yeah.
Yeah. But
Now, was it?
yeah.
Was a tough that was a tough question, I guess. And what you sort of see is, I guess, that people they sort of do it lockstep as well. So what they'll often do is they'll kind of go, step one is build our revenue here locally, but then what we'll do is based on getting X milestone here locally, we'll actually invest this much here as well, and they'll actually put this much into the international market. And they'll probably what I've seen is I've seen people use partners as a way of actually taking their market to other sort of places around the world. So partners in North America, partners in the UK, and they'll use that as being the basis to get a bit of a groundswell and to get the initial clients on board and that sort of stuff. Then they'll build out from there.
Yeah. Or they do joint ventures. Some of the times they might do that. Yeah.
That's really interesting. And I mean, for this podcast, I mean, you're joining us, and we're so lucky, as I said, to have you on board to help us with the podcast. I mean, I guess what kinds of companies are you going to be talking to and interviewing, and I guess the ones you're interested in? What sort of stories are you interested in sharing with our users and our audience?
Yeah, I think given kind of, my interest and background, I think, and I think it's a really interesting topic and it's becoming much more relevant, is perhaps foreign companies. So maybe they're based in North America or in Europe, and they're looking to expand into the Asia Pacific market. So
Mhm.
specifically looking at legal tech, it's a massive market. I think it's projected
Mm.
to be around about $50 billion by 2030.
Mm.
And APAC is actually a very it's a market that's very much becoming more increasingly in demand, and
Mhm.
that's because of those changing consumer preferences and the advancements in technology as
Mhm.
well. So as technology advances and consumer preferences change, so people are looking for fast legal services. They want legal services on the go. So that's things like technology that can help with that, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a really good market, and um, it's also projected to be 40% of the global legal tech market by something around 27, I think. So lots of opportunity there.
Mhm.
Um, so I think that's going to be a very interesting thing to talk about.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think there's people out there in in North America and the UK that they're a UK organization. They've gone to North America, now they come to APAC and talking about their journey and what they're looking to try and achieve out here and that sort of stuff. And I guess as well, the other flip side as well, what's interesting is actually, I've been through this journey myself with with the company that I co-founded is around, an Aussie company that's going out abroad and doing the thing overseas and what's the journey there? I mean, how do they do it? What do they invest? What sort of process should they go through? What kind of planning should they put in place? What kind of incentives might they be able to get? All those kinds of things. So it'd be interesting to hear some stories from Aussie companies that are actually in their experiences in going abroad as well, from you when you do those podcasts.
Yes, no, that'll be excellent as well. Um, And I think, again, I think America and Australia, Asia Pacific or Australia, they're very much
Mhm.
friendly trading partners. So
Mm.
you have a look at the stats as well. Um, Most of Australia's legal tech sectors that do expand internationally is first North America, second Western Europe. So that would also be very interesting to look at.
Yeah, and I mean, along the way, I guess you'll accumulate some facts and figures and some different sort of statistics and things as well, and that sort of stuff. But as I say, we're very very lucky to have you doing the podcast and actually interviewing. And I think we've got some really interesting episodes coming up that you'll be sort of tackling in terms of actually some local founders that have gone international, some of the
Yeah.
lessons they've learnt, and some of the I guess case studies and I guess things that people have actually cautionary tales, but also as well where they found success. Yeah, those sorts of things. So some exciting episodes are coming up that you'll be doing, which we're looking forward to. And I'm swinging back to the marketing side of things. So marketing in general side of things. I mean, people often sort of lump sales and marketing into the same sort of barrel, and they kind of say, "Look, yeah, it's sales and marketing, that's what it is," and things like that. Why is it important, particularly for small, fast-growing companies, to actually have to look at marketing as its own discipline and not lump it together, and why it needs the attention?
Yeah, so that's a really really good point. I think there's also a lot of jokes and memes about, marketing doing all the hard work and sales getting all the credit. Um, it's a funny one. It's just for laughter. But no, I think marketing is the lead generation engine, right? So
Yeah,
marketing is what's working in the background. So marketing sources the leads,
yeah,
and whereas sales sells. Okay, so sales is selling, whereas marketing is generating leads.
yeah.
Now, I think one of the most important things to remember, again, this is for companies that might be a bit more larger and have that specific different sales and marketing departments. Sales and marketing really need to talk to each other. So they need to be like best friends. Um,
Mm,
because marketing needs to learn from sales, because salespeople are the ones that are going to be talking to those, prospects, are going to be really interacting. So there's a lot of things that a marketer may not know based on
mm,
pure, the internet research or even interacting with people that salesperson knows. So if a salesperson loses a deal, okay, why did you lose that deal? And then that's going to really help the marketer in terms of planning out the communication strategy and what they want to communicate. Um, and same thing, sales really needs to be talking to marketing as well. Sales is going to need marketing's help in terms of preparing appropriate materials, in terms of preparing appropriate communication, such as emails, follow-ups, and things like that. So, and you need to have, another thing is you need to have
mm,
consistent messaging, a consistent tone of voice between sales and marketing. So marketing can't be, advertising or promoting something and sales be selling something else. You need to
mm.
be very consistent in the way that you promote that product. And I think that's where sales and marketing really come together.
No, fantastic. Well, certainly looking forward to actually hearing more of the sort of stories and case studies as you go through and talk to some more of these sort of the legal tech firms here and also abroad as well, and also I guess some of the law firms and their challenges around the marketing side as well. So very much looking forward to it, Ava. And I guess if anybody wants to find out more about your experience, because I mean I'm gonna do a shout out. You and your team did an amazing job with launching Clow into the region. Highly successful. And I know you're working with a number of folks in the legal tech, but if folks overseas want to find out more about the APAC region, we'll put your email address and details, and they can reach out to you for Ask Me Anything type session.
Yeah, definitely. So they can send me an email. You can go on my website and book a free consultation or free session. If you're based in Sydney, face-to-face coffee meeting, all good. But
Yeah,
email, LinkedIn, or website.
awesome. Well, we're looking forward to seeing you do some of these interviews. So thank you again for your time today. Really appreciate it, and welcome on board.
Thanks, David. It was great talking to you, and I'm really looking forward to this.
Brilliant.